Hello, mysterious person behind the screen, and welcome back after a long absence to another commentary with me and Isaac.
Hello, everyone. We're back.
We are back, just like certain characters in a certain film we'll be discussing today.
hmm
That was a really clunky segue, but yeah, so we're going to be back for a couple of special commentaries this month, and our first one is on Spider-Man No Way Home, the theatrical cut. Not the more fun stuff version. um, so yeah, the big epic Spider-Man threequel from last year. Without further ado,
If you'd like to sync this up with your own copy of the theatrical cut of Spider-Man No Way Home, go to the start and press play in 3, 2, 1, go. So this is a commentary I really wanted to do because we talked about it a lot in our Spider-Man commentaries because all of those came out before the film did, so we had a lot of speculation and theories.
yeah, it's pretty funny actually because like you go back and listen to those and they're pretty outdated now because it's kind of us going, oh, I wonder who's going to be in No Way Home, and yeah,
Yep.
so it's good to complete the Home trilogy.
hmm And yeah, having seen, I mean, as of today, I did see Black Panther: Wakanda Forever,
Ooh.
and yeah, this is probably the best Phase 4 film.
I've still not seen Black Panther as of recording. I'm seeing it tomorrow, so I'm quite late on that one.
I mean,
Um,
I do think it was good, much better than Marvel's efforts film-wise from this year, but
mm,
nothing spectacular, but good without spoilers. But yeah, this is definitely the standout of Phase 4 for me.
nice. Yeah, this is definitely my favorite. I think Phase 4 has definitely been the weakest of all of them. Without without a shadow of a doubt for me. Um,
I know because it just feels kind of directionless.
that's it. That's the perfect word for it. It's directionless. It's just I don't know whether it's a COVID thing because a lot of the projects kind of were held back for years. And that's probably why we've had like just so many of them, because that's my thing as well. There's just too much coming out for me.
Yeah,
Like it was fine when it was 3 films a year, 2 or 3 films a year, but it's when it's like 4 films a year plus like 5 TV series. I'm
yeah.
just like, I'm getting really fatigued by it, which sucks. But this one I really like, and I've watched it many times since the cinema, and it's always held up for me. So
Yeah, I love this how it carries on directly from No Way Home,
yeah,
and I do love the different reactions we get from members of the public. Like you get people who believe in Spider-Man, you get people who believe in Mysterio. In fact, one detail I like is when he gets splattered with paint, and
mm,
one of them says "Mysterio forever," and
yeah.
yeah, it's great to watch. It's great to kick off the film with, and yeah, I love the bit with Mary Jane on the bridge. Like,
Yeah,
obviously, Spider-Man can balance there quite easily, but she can't, and that's pretty funny.
yeah, it's really good. I really like. It's a really fast-paced, energetic way to open the film. I think it's really effective. And yeah, I mean, as somebody who wasn't a fan of the first 2 home films, especially Far From Home, this one fixed a lot of my complaints, and I think even just in this first little bit here, I think it's already quite. I think the filmmaking is a step up, and it's a bit more. It's just got a bit more weight to everything
Exactly. Yeah.
than the second one did. And don't get me wrong, I still have my issues with like the humor, but it's a lot
hmm
less. It's a lot less obnoxious, I think, than in Far From Home.
hmm
Like I think a lot of this is very funny.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. They think they've walked in on them
Yeah.
doing.
I will say though, I don't know. I guess I don't know if this is controversial. As much as I love this film, I do think it's the worst looking of all of the Spider-Man films. I don't know if that's controversial.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's the worst looking of all of them, just in terms of. I mean, it was a COVID production, so I understand, but like it's
Mm.
some of the VFX are really kind of shaky, and it's
I
a
mean, yeah,
shame.
because I mean, when you get to villains like Sandman and Lizard, you can obviously tell with
Yeah.
COVID because they're not even on set; it's just their voices.
Yeah, and then later on they reuse footage from the other films, so it's quite.
I mean, it would not surprise me if Risa fans and Thomas Hayden Church came out and said, "Oh yeah, we recorded all those lines in our homes."
I think they may have done, to be honest with you.
Oh.
Yeah, it's there were some really stunning parts to the film later on, but yeah, I think a lot it's probably the weakest looking of all of them, but yeah. But I like this. This is like it handles this with a lot more weight than I thought they were going to do. Like his house
Definitely, yeah.
being swarmed by reporters and everything. It's really good, and I also like the Iron Man Junior
Oh
magazine
yeah,
cover,
there is.
because that's what everyone was. That was the big, for people who weren't fans of MCU Spider-Man. That was the big criticism, that he was like Iron Man Junior. So I quite like that.
I
There's
love
a
how
little reference to
I
it.
love how James the Daily Bugle is just some guy in his bedroom with a green screen.
Yeah, I really like that
Almost
update.
it's almost nutter right wing YouTubers live as
Mm.
well.
Yeah, it's very Alex Jones. Yeah, it's incredibly timely. I think it's a good update. I think it's a really good update.
Mm.
So these characters have since popped up again in Miss Marvel.
Oh really?
Yeah, the Department of Damage Control, they're in that show, and I quite like that little link because it kind of fits with the small scale efforts,
Hmm.
I guess, of their kind of operation. Whereas I think a lot of the other stuff, like in Phase 4, a lot of the other link backs to the MCU, it's often felt quite forced. Like a lot
Mm.
of the cameos and crossovers, it's often felt quite forced. Whereas I quite like that small little detail. Um, I mean, did you see Love and Thunder?
I did, and
Yeah.
honestly, if you put a gun to my head, I couldn't remember a thing that happened in it.
No, that was a big disappointment. I remember when I first watched it, I really liked it, and then as I thought about it, I was just like, actually, yeah, this was this was pretty pants. But
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think with the MCU, I'm just gonna kind of pick and choose what I want to see. Like,
mm,
I think the only upcoming MCU film I'm interested in seeing is probably Guardians 3
yeah,
and
I can't wait for that. Yeah,
probably Avengers 5 and 6. I would like to see what they've got in store for them.
yeah, same. I'm really looking forward to Fantastic Four.
Oh yeah, that's coming.
I'm really looking forward to that, and there's a few things on the horizon. I think I'm looking now that we've kind of gotten Phase 4 right the way. I'm hoping that things will start to get a bit more cohesive and a bit more kind of, like you say, pick up a bit of a direction.
Mm,
But we'll have to see. I'm certainly not as invested as I was a couple of years ago. I'm more just watching it because it's Marvel now, and I'm just like, well, people at work will be talking about it, so I've got to keep up with the conversation. But yeah.
yeah. I mean, not to mention, I mean, I've not even picked up some of the recent Marvel films on Blu-ray. I
Mm.
mean, to be honest, Doctor Strange and Thor: Love and Thunder, their Blu-ray covers are awful because they're absolutely tiny.
They're small, aren't they? Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, it's really weird. I think
Not
it's
gonna
like,
lie,
yeah.
I was just gonna say, when this happened in the cinema, I was like, "Who's this guy?"
Ah, really?
I had no idea who he was.
Oh wow. No, this was rumored for a long time that Daredevil would be Peter Parker's lawyer, and I didn't know if it kind of got swept under the rug with the rumors of like Toby and Andrew. So when the cane popped into frame, I was like, holy shit, they're actually doing it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love it.
honestly, after the film ended, I had to look up blind person Spider-Man No Way Home.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I had no idea who he was.
Oh, honestly, the Daredevil show is so good. And I'm really glad because after the Netflix lost the Marvel rights and everything, it was all kind of up in the air, what would happen to those characters. So I'm really glad that they've brought him in, and he popped up in She-Hulk as well. So they're bringing him in as a full-time thing, and I'm really happy about that.
Nice.
That brick was CGI. I don't know if you
Oh.
know this. It was meant to be a snow globe.
Oh, right.
And after the fact, they were like, actually, it'd be more impactful if it was a brick. So they had to completely erase the snow globe, and it's pretty seamlessly done. You wouldn't notice.
Mm.
See, at this point in the cinema, I was really nervous because it was like, oh my god, are you rewarding this Spider-Man again with this big fancy penthouse apartment? But luckily, they do a really cool thing with it, which is nice.
Yeah, it more or less punishes him for using Stark technology in this one.
Yeah, exactly. Which was so refreshing after the last two.
Mm.
And I really like Tom Holland and Zendaya. Obviously, they're together in real life, but they have great chemistry, and yeah, it works really well, and especially in this film, I think.
Yeah.
And even like I mean, I don't know, going into this, did you have any kind of preconceived? Did you kind of expect to see what we end up seeing in this, or did you think, oh, it's just all going to be rumors and all that?
I expected to see a lot of the villains, obviously, but with the Spider-Men coming in, like Toby and Andrew, I kind of didn't expect to see them. I was just like, okay, it might be rumor, because also Andrew Garfield, let's just say it, he's the best liar on the planet.
Oh my god, he is. Yeah, I'm not the fucking werewolf.
I'm not in the fucking movie.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought, okay, all these villains are in it. They're all on the posters. I was kind of thinking, okay, maybe we'll get something. We'll get a little cameo. I did not expect what we actually end up getting, which is they're a big part of the story in the third act. That was an incredible thrill to see them into, because I really thought, oh, we'll just get a little cameo at the end, and there'll be like a few lines, and it'll be, the cinema will cheer, and then we'll move on. But I did not expect what we get. But I guess we'll talk about it later when they actually come into the film. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't see the more fun stuff version that I mentioned at the start. I haven't seen that version.
Yeah, I've not really bothered with it because it's
No.
what, 8 minutes longer.
I think so. Yeah, I think I bring it up because I see Betty Brant there. Apparently, there's more of her in it,
Oh, right.
and it's more of there's more of him at the school and everything. And people keep asking me to do a comparison video on it, like I did with Spider-Man 2 and 3. So maybe I'll end up covering it one day. No plans at the moment, but yeah, it is out on like digital platforms, so maybe one day I'll rent it or something.
I mean,
but...
if you've got the time, I'd love for you to do comparisons with the theatrical and extended cuts of Lord of the Rings.
Oh god, that would be such a long video.
Mm-hmm.
That would be such a challenge. Who knows? Maybe one day. I have been rewatching the Harry Potter films recently, actually, and the first two of those have extended cuts. The Blu-rays I have extended cuts, and I was sort of thinking about doing those because they're kind of interesting. But yeah. Oh, I really like the wall at the back has Howard Stark in it.
Oh, it does. Yeah, that's a
And
good Easter egg.
and also Stanley Tucci from Captain America. Can't remember his name, but he's there as well.
Oh yeah, as if to say, these people who helped create the Avengers
Yes. Yeah.
are the heroes of, say, teenagers and kids
Yeah.
in schools. Yeah.
I really like that. I really like that. It makes sense as
One of
well that, you know, in the digital age, everyone would be just filming him on their
oh
phone and
oh yeah, and they read like the all the made up stuff about Peter, like saying he used his powers to hypnotize a female.
yeah, that's funny. I like that.
One of the things I do like about this whole conflict is based on them getting into, well, not getting into college, which feels like such a Spider-Man problem
Mm.
to have, an everyday problem that everyone who goes to higher education gets. And also, I like how Peter goes to Doctor Strange not because he can't get into college, it's because his friends can't get in, and he feels it's his fault.
Yeah, 100%. And like
Mm.
his actions or his life as Spider-Man is having a direct negative impact on the people around him in his personal life, and I really like that. And again, it was just a nice. It was more of what I personally wanted from the second one. So
Yeah.
it's this righted a lot of the wrongs of that for me. So yeah, it's a really great conflict, and
Hmm.
it'll be a shit. You know, given how this film ends, it will be a shame if we don't see this trio again. Um,
It will be, yeah, because
yeah,
I mean, to be honest, if there is going to be a fourth Tom Holland film, um, I'd love for him to be the mentor figure because he's had a different mentor in each of his films.
mm,
And yeah, I'd love for him to be a mentor to say Miles Morales, and then Miles Morales takes up the Spider-Man mantle.
it'd be great. It'd be really good. Um, Also, technically, this is a Christmas movie, isn't it? I know we have the Halloween decorations up here, but you know, given how it ends,
That's true, yeah. I mean, it did come out at Christmas.
it did. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, because of work, I couldn't see this until Boxing Day.
Oh wow, avoiding the internet must have
Yeah,
been a bit.
yeah, I had to avoid the internet like mad.
Yeah, spoilers were everywhere. I remember this one. It was like, yeah, you couldn't escape it.
Hmm.
I remember actually that it was a real kind of. It's one of those kind of movie experiences I won't forget because, um, I was on a filming job out of my local town, my local city, about an hour and a half away, and I booked the tickets for this, and I knew, you know, the job was running over, and I kept looking at my watch, thinking, "Oh my god, I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it." But I did in the end. But it was just that kind of anticipation of being like, "Holy shit, I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna miss it." It's
Oh yeah.
just been like, but yeah, it was it's one of those experiences that really memorable, and yeah.
Hmm. And I think what this film has over No Way Home is that the high school kids aren't as prominent in this one,
Oh god, yeah, Jesus Christ.
and it does help. It does help the film a lot. I mean, I don't like saying that because I'm sure they're great young actors, but
Yeah.
I just think the writing for them does them no favors.
Oh yeah, it's not the actor's fault at all. I mean, because I see a lot of people on the internet going, "Oh, a lot of people who hate them in these films aren't kids themselves, so of course they're not going to get it." But I'm just like, well, when Homecoming came out, I was 16, I think, 15, so I would have been
Hmm.
the age that they're supposed to be, and I've never found them endearing or engaging or an accurate presentation of what a teenager is like. So
Yep.
it's never worked for me, even when I was the age that it's meant to be appealing to. So,
Hmm.
but I think all of Flash's scenes were filmed on a different. I think they
They
were all
were,
filmed on a green
yeah.
screen, yeah, because he couldn't be there because of COVID or something. Yeah.
Hmm. And it's funny how Peter literally goes a couple of streets over to see Doctor Strange, and if you go back to like 2008, 2009, where Kevin Feige at Comic Con was saying, "My dream for Marvel films is to have a universe that's so big where one hero could walk down the street and bump into another one."
Oh
And
yeah. We literally have, because yeah, it's very easy to complain about the MCU these days, and I've done my fair share, and Phase 4 really has not been great at all. But it is so cool that we have something like this, like just the concept of having, like you say, having that, is very, it's very cool.
I mean, Wong seems to be that. And it's funny, Phase 3 and 4, Wong seems to be the Nick Fury. He just pops up everywhere.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, Wong's like the fan favorite as well. Every time, I mean,
Yeah.
he popped up in an episode of She-Hulk, and they made the joke like they're breaking the fourth wall. She was like, "Yeah, Wong's in this one. It's like giving the show Twitter armor for a week." Because if Wong's in it, people will love it. Um, I also like that Phase 4 is, well, Phase 4 and beyond. They're making Doctor Strange more prominent because I think he's a
They are,
great
yeah.
character, and I really like Benedict Cumberbatch in the role. So
hmm I mean, it's funny because as a teenager, he visited the set of Time and the Rani because his mum was working on it.
I've heard that. Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
is pretty cool.
I also like this. There's a very small beat coming up, which I don't see too many people talking about. It's when he says like "sorry to bother you," and Steven sort of goes, "No, it's okay, you didn't," but he kind of just gets cut off, and it's a really nice moment, and it's quite
hmm
it's very small, but I think it says a lot about Steven's character.
Yeah. 'Cause I'd say Stephen Strange is probably a bit more humble than Tony Stark.
Definitely, yeah, definitely,
Because if it was Tony, he'd probably be like, make it quick, I got stuff to do.
yeah, exactly. Because I know a lot of people, when the trailer for this came out, there were theories that this was somebody impersonating Doctor Strange. Because
Yeah, that could have been possible.
yeah, because the trailer was like made him seem so willing to do this spell, and people were like, "That's really out of character for him." But in context with the film, it makes sense. But
And what's great is that he does go through an arc because at the start of this film, he is pretty willing to help Peter have the world forget he's Spider-Man. But by the end, he's like, I can stop this, but I'll have to go through with the spell. There's no going back, and he
yeah,
sounds really regretful that he has to do this
yeah, definitely,
because I think he sees how much of a good person Peter is. Because Doctor Strange, he sees the guys from the other universes as they're from another universe. It doesn't matter. There's tons of realities out there. There's
mm,
tons of possibilities. So let's just leave them to their own fate.
yeah,
Whereas here, he sees how good of a person Peter is and doesn't want to forget him.
definitely, definitely. And I think it's so because like yeah, this film's full of fan service, obviously, but it's fan service that feels like using it to inform Peter's character, and having the responsibility of him being like, I've got to. They die fighting Spider-Man. Well, maybe I can save them. Maybe I can fix that kind of thing. I think it's such a great way of doing it, and it means that it doesn't feel like meaningless, hollow fan service. It
hmm
feels like it's got a purpose to it, and using that to give this Peter real stakes and consequences, which again I felt was missing from the others.
hmm
And that's why sort of like, because obviously this gets a lot of points for the nostalgia and the fan service and everything, but I think when people say that it's nothing more than that, I am a bit like, well, no, that there's a reason that I think this is the best of the three, even beyond those
mm
elements, because I just think it does a much better job with Peter as a character, um,
Yeah,
which is pretty incredible given that the two other Spider-Mans show up, but it still feels like Tom Holland's film.
it is definitely. Yeah, it's still his story. They don't feel like they're overshadowed.
Exactly, exactly.
And I suppose the whole I know everyone went crazy when the other Spider-Men came back, but I
Mm.
think me being us being Doctor Who fans, we're just like, man, this happens every 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I've got to say, if you had told me 2 years ago that I was going to see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield play Spider-Man again, not only play Spider-Man again, but play Spider-Man together in the same film, I would have told you you were absolutely insane. Um,
Oh yeah, me too. I thought they're not gonna come back.
yeah, never, never. Especially not Andrew. I thought, yeah,
Mm,
we'll never see that again. I always kind of thought in the back of my mind, okay, maybe Toby might do it for some kind of anniversary special or like a little cameo or something. I never thought we'd ever see Andrew Garfield again in that suit.
hmm I knew we'd get the villains back because I know Alfred Molina
Yeah,
has said in interviews that I'd play Doc Ock again in a heartbeat.
yes, yeah.
But I mean, I've heard one of the controversial aspects of this film is that should Peter have pleaded his case before MIT College before going to Doctor Strange?
Oh yeah, 100%. But I think that's part of his arc because it's like
Yeah.
at this point Peter fucks up, and he
hmm
acts on his impulses. And again, I don't mind that because he gets punished for it. Like he
Yeah, because
faces
here,
the consequences of it.
yeah, because doing this spell and acting on impulse, all these villains from other universes start coming in.
Yes.
In fact, the lizard outright says it. He says, "When you try to fix things, there's always consequences."
Yeah, exactly. And one of my problems with the other films was that it never felt like he had any real consequences for his
Mm,
actions. So the fact that this gives him that, you know, pleased me.
hmm Yeah, I love the way this is edited.
It's really good.
Perfect. I mean, I actually know that the guy playing Flash. I know he was green screened in thanks to the Honest trailer. Actually.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I guess that's what I mean. It is, when I say it's the worst looking Spider-Man film, obviously a lot of it couldn't be helped because of COVID, but at the same time, it is a shame. I think it's more so on characters like the Green Goblin, simply because that same version of that same character was done practically 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
seeing it with such ropey CGI later, I'm thinking of the alley scene,
hmm
in particular, when he's in the alley and talking to the mask and everything. I think that's where it's noticeable, just because we've seen those characters 20 years ago
hmm
looking practically, and that's where it's most noticeable, I think. I really like the touch that the suit is and the tie and everything is creased, because
yeah.
obviously he's had it under the the Iron Spider's outfit. So
hmm
also that continues the trend of the Home trilogy using car number plates as an Easter egg, because that one
Oh.
says ASM number 3, which was the
Oh
first
yeah.
appearance of Doc Ock.
Oh right.
And
Nice.
it does the same thing in Homecoming and Far From Home. It has the number plates of the first appearance of the villains. So, which is quite cool. I like that little running gag throughout these. Also note that they never say the full Mary Jane Watson or Michelle Jones Watson. They only ever say MJ or MJ Watson. They never ever say the full title, because it's like a legal thing apparently.
Oh well, yeah. Because funny enough, the Norman Osborn says it later because he goes Mary Jane. Oh,
Yeah,
fascinating.
exactly. But they never say like Mary Jane Watson or anything, because apparently Sony and Marvel, as part of their agreement, these films can't. They have the rights to certain characters, but they can't name specific characters, and they can't use certain things. It's very weird.
Oh, okay.
It's this whole thing. But yeah. And here he is.
And I do love the interaction they have because he's like, "Hello, Peter,"
Yeah.
like a classic villain would do, but he's just like, hi, do I know you?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I like how he does try. Spider-Man tries to talk him out of violence before going for his punches. He's like, "If you just calm down, we can actually talk about this."
Yeah, exactly.
Just details like that. It shows what kind of person this Peter Parker is.
Definitely.
And these arms, they are CGI, but I think they're done very well because
They do look good.
in
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2, he had mechanical arms,
Yeah.
actual mechanical arms on set.
They're bigger than they were in Spider-Man 2, aren't they? Like, he can spread them out a bit more. And I've seen a lot of people complain that the costume looks wrong, but I was just sort of thinking, like, I mean, does Alfred Molina really want to walk around topless for the whole thing? Like, you give him a break.
I mean, I think there's only a few scenes in Spider-Man 2 anyway where he's wearing a jacket but no shirt.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got to say, like, first viewing, hearing the Danny Elfman Doc Ock theme, definitely got the goosebumps of that.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
And also the de-aging effects on him is pretty good.
It's not too bad, is it? It looks alright. It looks pretty good.
Did they use any on Willem Dafoe? Because, I've seen him in interviews when he was promoting the film, and he honestly doesn't look any different than he did 20 years ago.
I think they may have used a little bit, but not much. Like, certainly not to the extent that they have on Alfred Molina.
Yeah, because he said, when they asked me to do it again, he said, how am I going to do this? I've got wrinkles and double chins now.
Yeah. I love Alfred Molina. He's so funny. Like, there was this big interview in the run up to the film where they had like Jamie Foxx and Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina, and they were asking these questions about like, so what drew you to come back and everything. And Jamie Foxx and Alfred and Willem Dafoe, they all, they both give quite detailed answers, and they go, so what about you, Alfred? And he just, without missing a beat, he just goes, well, for me it was just about the money.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
I mean, this is the closest we're going to get to a Sinister Six film, probably.
Oh, essentially, yeah.
There's only 5 of them. I'm like, you couldn't just squeeze one more villain? I mean, you could have gotten the Rhino.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have gotten the Rhino from Andrew Garfield's films. Then each Spider-Man has 3 villains each.
Yeah. Because I know Sony are still, like, they're really pushing for the Sinister Six film still. They're still pushing for so many weird things with that weird universe that they've got going on. Are
we going to get the Aunt May prequel?
Oh, God, I hope not. We've got, well, I didn't see Morbius. I heard it was shite, so I didn't watch it. But, yeah.
Also, I love how Peter essentially wins this fight by having the Bluetooth connection.
Essentially, yeah. And as much as I'm a bit like, do we really have to see Alfred Molina with Stark Tech tentacles? But it does make sense for the story. As much as I'm a bit like, oh, really? But it makes sense, I guess. And they handle it well, because my biggest concern with this was always, are they going to ruin the ending of Spider-Man 2? And they don't, because by the end he's still redeemed.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I was very happy with that.
I mean, one thing that puzzles me is that when they laugh at his name, Otto Octavius, like, there's a guy called Stephen Strange in your unit, but Otto Octavius is too far.
That joke was done so much better in Spider-Man 2 as well. Like, the guy named Otto Octavius winds up with eight limbs. What are the odds? That's so much better than the one they do in this one. Right, one thing that doesn't make sense, in a second, so when the Goblin turns up, so one of the biggest kind of dropped balls, I think, of this is, why does everyone know that Norman Osborn was the Goblin? Because...
That's true, yeah, because...
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Coming up here, he hasn't got the mask on. He's got the mask on, and even Octavius goes, Osborn?
Yeah.
But no one knew apart from Peter.
No,
And because if the
yeah.
public knew, then surely Harry Osborn would have known.
That's the whole thing. And like when Sandman's like, yeah, it was all over the news. Norman Osborn, you died impaled by your own glider, and I'm like, well, how do you know that? But his son doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been in the news that it was the Green Goblin that died, but no one knew it was Norman Osborn. I don't know, but then again, here, yeah, he goes Osborn.
Osborn. Yeah, it's weird. I guess you could explain it as maybe he recognizes the glider and just puts.
Possibly.
But even then, it's like, it's weird. It's quite a. It's a weird detail in a film that gets a lot right about those legacy characters. I think that's one of the only things where it's like that doesn't make sense. Your
Mhm.
timelines are a bit off there.
I'll say this about the lizard. He seems like such an afterthought. I'm really
He does, yeah,
wondering why they bothered including him. I mean, I suppose it was to
yeah.
give more villains from Andrew Garfield's universe more,
That was
but
it, yeah.
yeah, he feels like an afterthought because he's just like, oh, that thing I found it in the sewer, and then even in the end of the film, Garfield's Spider-Man is like, yeah, I already dealt with Carnage before, I can do it again.
Yeah, right. It's a shame. I guess it comes from having five villains, but
Mhm.
it's a shame. It's I do like the bit later when he's in the van and he's like, and so it begins. But it's yeah.
Well, yeah, he comes in and shouts at Peter, "I told you there'd be consequences." I'm like, thanks.
Yeah, yeah. It's like thanks for that. And I think Lizard feels. I think he's the weakest of all of them because he feels quite out of character as well. Like
Yeah, like I felt
yeah,
there was such a big missed opportunity by not including him more because with Sandman and Electro, their interplay with each other is great because they accidentally got their powers. And there's
yeah,
a line that Electro says that I love. It's like we got to be careful where we fall
yeah. I like that. Yeah,
because whereas Osborn, Octavius, and Connors, they were all trying to make the world a better place, or
mm,
they're all the results of experiments gone wrong. So they could
yeah,
have easily discussed that between them because Connors thinks becoming lizards is the next step in human evolution. So
yeah.
there's a huge missed opportunity there, and also Octavius did know a Kurt Connors from his universe. He could have been like, "What the."
I was gonna say that. Yeah,
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 he becomes a lizard creature.
yeah. I was gonna say that. It's like, yeah. It's a shame, but also, I just think it feels weird later when he's like, Max, I can give you a makeover, and it just doesn't feel like the same character from Amazing Spider-Man 1, which is a shame.
Yeah,
But
and I do like how he reacts to magic. He's like, "What is this? Some kind of birthday party?" Because
yeah,
I think we can assume magic doesn't exist in their universe.
yeah, or at least if it does exist, nobody's discovered it yet. Nobody's managed to.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Well, there is a Doctor Strange in their universe because he is mentioned in Spider-Man 2.
That's true. There is. Yeah, there's definitely a Doctor Strange. Also, they're really setting up this Ned thing, aren't they?
Yeah, but what
They've set that up.
as?
Yeah.
I
So
think
in the comics, he becomes the Hobgoblin, but it's I don't know. They're really setting the magic angle up, which is weird. I don't know. I mean, it should be noted like Jacob Batalon has lost quite a bit of weight, and he's also
Mhm.
I think he's wearing a wig. So
All right.
he looks quite different to how he did in the other two films. So
Hmm.
I really don't like that line. Scooby
Yeah.
Doo, this shit. I will say, I always felt like this section of the film felt almost like a video game. Um, because it's like, okay, we're gonna get this villain. Now we're gonna go and defeat this villain. And then
Press
even
X to use your
yeah,
web prison
exactly.
thingy.
And then when Sandman turns up as well, it's like, Peter, it's me. I'll help you. It's just almost like, oh, okay, we're doing this.
Hmm.
Yeah, I really like that as well because they don't have a massive falling out over this. It's not an argument. She's just like, yeah, next time maybe consult us. You know, don't go behind our backs. And he's like, okay, yeah, fair enough. And they move on. I really like that because it would
I
have
like
been
that
really,
as well,
yeah,
yeah.
it would have been really easy to make that like a big source of conflict between the two. But I quite like it that it's just they learn from the experience and they move on. Like it feels quite real.
And here they start working together to get these villains back.
Yeah. I like that. Who the hell are these two? Yeah, this joke about his name falls real flat for me.
Yeah, like
It's just like it's not like you say. It's just, I think it was done so much better in Spider-Man 2, but I don't think there was a need to repeat the joke personally. But
I think there's an Onward. Yeah, there it is, the Onward reference.
yes, there it is. Yeah,
Starring Chris Pratt in another role.
yeah. I'm behind on my Pixar. I've got quite a few to catch up on. I watched Lightyear, which I kind of enjoyed. I didn't mind it.
I've not seen Lightyear yet.
It was okay.
No.
It was okay. I definitely. Yeah, it was better than I thought it was going to be from what a lot of people were saying. It was quite fun. But yeah. Yeah, it's just the timelines don't quite match up because when he's like Norman Osborn died, like obviously he knows Norman Osborn died, but I just thought in the Raimi trilogy it was always like, yeah, Osborn died, and then Harry didn't. Nobody knew he was the Goblin. It was just assumed that it was an accident or something, and
Yeah.
it just never. It's weird.
Unless no one knew it was the Goblin because of the butler.
Because of the butler, exactly.
Because he does say, the wound came from his glider.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you didn't think to tell anyone that.
I know that John Paxton sadly had passed away before this film came out, but my god damn it, Bernard the Butler should have been in this. This kind of reminds me of there was a game a few years ago, well, years ago now, 2010, called Shattered Dimensions, and it was this similar concept where it's like there were 4 different Spider-Men, and you play as each one, and they each have to deal with like different versions of their villains, and this whole Electro bit reminds me of that game because there was quite a similar bit with Electro in that. So
Nice. I've never liked his black suit. You might as well just say he's Venom now.
yeah, I remember when the trailer came out and everyone was like, oh, symbiote, symbiote, and it's like, no, he's just turned the suit inside out. I also never got why he duct taped the phone to his body. Surely you could just web it.
Yeah.
It's just a bit like, just web it. Like, you don't need that much tape. This is quite effective though. Like the sand moving in the background is pretty well done.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny with Electro and Sandman because in each of their films, I'd argue Electro was more of a CGI character and Sandman was more live action with Thomas Hayden Church. But here it's now completely the other way around.
It is, yeah. I also like the explanation for him not being blue this time because he starts off blue there when he's transforming, and then because it's a different electricity, because obviously different Earth, different electricity, he's he's whole again. I also never thought I'd hear the dubstep from that film Return, but we do hear it a little bit here.
Yeah, I do. I honestly really like his theme. I know a lot of people hate it. I think it suits I just think it suits Electro really well.
It's cool they brought it back. We do get a little bit brah brah brah. I
mean, I wonder, did they put him in the high-vis jacket because it's green, and that was his colours in the comics, yellow and green?
I think so, yeah. I think that was a reason. It's the same way later they have his electricity forms the star mask on his face from the comics, which is quite cool. I mean, I've said it before, but I really like the in the PS4 game from a few years ago. He has like a actual like facial scarring, and it's in the shape of the mask from the comics, which is quite a cool way of doing it.
Nice.
But again, as well, this is quite Sandman is redeemed as well. Like
Yeah, true.
he's still redeemed after this. Admittedly, when he's in the final battle later, I am a little bit like, would Sandman really be this willing to do all this? But it makes sense.
Yeah, because he hasn't got an evil plan or anything. He's just like, I just want to go home, and if you're not gonna let me go home, I'll do it by force.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In fact, what would have been cool is if they got Dane DeHaan's Harry Osborn meeting.
Yeah.
Osborn dead.
Well, we do get Harry mentioned later, don't we? We get he says,
Yeah,
my son. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone else is living in my house.
Yeah.
Oscorp doesn't exist. My son.
Yeah.
I mean, only Willem Dafoe could make you feel sorry for a murdering psychopath.
God, he's so good in this. Like
Honestly,
so good.
I mean, this may be controversial, but getting rid of that mask was the best thing they could have done because his facial expressions are great, and
So
it's a shame how in the first film, they didn't just put him in green makeup and let his face do the performance. They just had to put him in which was a shame. But we got this, so I'm happy.
Exactly. And again, I never thought we'd ever see him reprise that role. It's insane, really. And Jamie Foxx, he was one of the first people to announce that he was back, wasn't he? Do you remember that? Like it was one of the first. I think he may have been the first one actually. He may have been, because everyone was like, Jamie Foxx is back as a lecturer, and everyone was like, what the fuck? Like, and then a few months later,
I mean, I remember theorizing, are they going to put in a sixth villain for Sinister Six? But no, they never did, because I thought they would have introduced maybe a new villain like Scorpion, or Craven. But
well, I love that they never announced that Willem Dafoe would have this big a role either. They never showed him in the trailers. You heard his voice, and you saw the Goblin, but you thought, okay, maybe that's just a cameo, because they were really, Doc Ock was the main guy in the trailers. They really hid Willem Dafoe's involvement completely. Like I said, you never see Willem Dafoe's face in the trailers, which is so cool. Like, I love that they hid that.
Bad tooth glasses and a coup mover.
Yeah.
I know they both worked at Oscorp, but Max was pretty much a guy at the bottom. Kurt Connors was a highly respected scientist. This would be like an usher working at a theatre and interacting with Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I think what doesn't make like Lizard and Sandman appearing a complete write-off is the fact that they did get Rhys Ifans and Thomas Hayden Church to do the voices again.
Definitely, and Sandman looks like Thomas Hayden Church. Like, they've used his model.
He does, yeah.
He's still. It's mostly later I find it a bit distracting when he's sat in the apartment, because I'm like, I mean, you never had a problem with keeping yourself whole in Spider-Man 3. So it's like when he's like wiping sand off the sofa and going, oh sorry, it's like, just go whole, dude. You did that, and you were fine doing that in the other film. But I guess I don't know.
I was just going to say, the Goblin persona here, I like how he's in a new universe. What does he say? We have a new world to conquer.
Yeah, definitely. It's so cool.
Of course the Goblin would say that.
And I love that they kept the whole talking to the mask thing.
Yeah.
Right, there were 2 versions of this scene, weren't there? There was this... I remember in the cinema, there was like... So, the first couple of weeks, there was one version, and then they replaced it where the CGI was slightly different and the editing was slightly different, and a few people were like, wait, I've still got the old version. Is this a new version? Is this a patch? Has it been cleaned up? And it was just like, oh, what is happening here? I don't know. I have no idea what version the Blu-ray uses, but... I know the CGI is a little bit different from the cinema, though. Specifically, the Andrew Garfield entrance scene looks different to the cinema.
Yeah, and I think here, I don't think the Goblin persona is trying to trick anyone. It's generally
No.
Norman Osborn asking for help.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, like he plays the duality so well. It's kind of it's a bit less ambiguous than it used to be. So in the 2002 film, it was always like, because of that scene at the end where he's like, "Godspeed, Spider-Man." It was always a little bit like the line between Norman and the Goblin was always a little bit blurred, whereas in this one it's a bit more clear cut. But I think it really works well.
And it's the first time to establish that Oscorp doesn't exist in this universe.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, given that Oscorp Tower was supposed to be in the Avengers.
Yeah, that would have been weird, wouldn't it? Yeah, I remember all that. And even just that little bit where he mentions, like, he says, "my son," like, the expressions on his face are just so good. Like, it's like you're absolutely watching the same character from 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's like they never left. It's great.
Absolutely. And that's true, I think, for all of the returning actors in this. Yeah.
I mean, the green and purple he's wearing, that's a reference to the costume from the comics, isn't it? Because the Goblin was green and his, like, torso was purple.
That's it, yeah.
And apparently one of his first vehicles was a rocket in the shape of a broomstick.
That's it. It's essentially like a witch's broomstick with a big rocket on the end. And he used to go around and he used to go zapping people with his fingers, like little sparks would come out of his fingers, which is quite funny.
I think, funnily enough, I think Mark Hamill even voiced a version of the Green Goblin in one of the Spider-Man cartoons.
Yeah, he did in the 90s show. Yeah.
So in the 90s, he was the Joker and the Green Goblin, two of the most iconic superhero villains. Quite lucky.
No, was he the Green? I think he was the Hobgoblin. He may have been the Green Goblin. He was
the Hobgoblin.
He was one.
Okay.
He was definitely one of the goblins. I can't remember now. It's been a long time since I've seen that show, but he was definitely one of the goblins. Definitely.
Yeah, and of course, I know it's DC, but Kevin Conroy did pass away recently.
Yeah, rest in peace. Rest in peace.
That shocked me to the core. It really did, because he wasn't that old. He was only in his mid-60s.
Yeah. Way too young.
I love that. Thanks, May. See you again soon.
Yeah,
He's gonna kill you.
Also, like the background detail from a minute ago when he was just sort of taking the donuts and the pastries.
Yeah.
Because that fits with Norman's character from the first film. Because he was like, this guy's always been a little bit dodgy. Like, he's overall a good person, even in his Norman form, but he has always been a bit opportunistic. So even just him taking the pastries, and it's really good.
And a little detail I like there was when Peter said, "This is MJ," and he goes, "Mary Jane."
Mary Jane,
No,
yeah.
Michelle. Oh, fascinating.
Yeah. And I can buy that, Osborn and Octavius knew each other. Like, I buy that.
Yeah, I can buy that. They're both scientists.
I buy that. It works well. But also that, you died years ago. How?
Well,
I mean, I wouldn't.
like 2 years ago.
It's 2 years, yeah. I wouldn't say 2 years ago was years ago. Like, yeah. Yeah, this whole thing is.
I'm just gonna say this: bringing back a villain from the dead like the Goblin. That's how you do it. Star Wars.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's funny how we take it for granted now that all these guys came back, but sometimes I do just have to stop myself and be like, holy shit, we actually
This
got...
actually happened.
Yeah, like, this actually happened. It's absolutely mad that it happened. It really is insane. But it's so cool.
It's literally called a Machina. It's a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah.
The box that can send you all home.
Yeah. But this, so presumably it took the villains from the moments of their deaths, but
Probably, yeah, because
yeah,
Electro's like, I was absorbing energy, and then oh shit, I was about to die.
how does the lizard factor into that? Because the lizard didn't die.
That's true. Maybe it just, well, because as Strange says, they didn't have to die. It was just like bringing people in who knew
Yeah, that's
Peter
true.
Parker, Spider-Man.
That's true. Yeah. I wonder why it didn't bring Topher Grace's Venom in then.
Or Dane DeHaan's Harry Osborn.
Yeah.
And also James Franco's Harry Osborn as well.
Yeah. I mean, they probably
The only
wouldn't
one
be.
who would have been left out from previous films is Paul Giamatti's Rhino.
Yeah, exactly.
What about me?
I mean, they probably wouldn't have hired James Franco because of all the stuff that
Yeah.
went with him recently, but that would have been a perfect opportunity to do that, actually, because you could, just before he gets impaled by his glider, that could have been quite a cool thing of him being like, wait, Peter, you were just holding me in your arms, kind of thing.
Yeah, and this fight between him and Doctor Strange is great.
Yeah. It's your classic kind of action figure thing that you always have as a kid. It's like, who'd win in a fight? Spider-Man or Doctor Strange? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, and also, it makes total sense why Peter wants to help the villains because, the name Spider-Man in his universe has now kind of become a taboo because everyone knows who he is and kind of jeers at him in the street just for being Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So he wants to put that name he wants to put that name right. So it's a name for good again rather than controversy.
Definitely. Yeah, this fight's really fun. It's a cool visual showcase, and
well, I remember because of this, like the bit of the rotating trains. I remember people thinking, oh, "Are they going to recreate the train fight from Spider-Man 2? Is that how we're going to get Doc Ock?"
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, anytime you get Doctor Strange doing his thing, it's always visually fun.
It is, yeah.
Multiverse of Madness had a very rough script, but visually, you could not fault that one at all.
That's true, yeah.
Oh, there you go. Christmas music. Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Plus, I like how Peter's able to defeat Doctor Strange using maths and sums. Something that you don't really see in magic. Yeah, because logic is usually magic's downfall.
Yeah. It's times like this film, I would wonder how much how aware would you be of anything that's happening if you if you hadn't seen Spider-Man 1, 2, 3 or The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. I do have to wonder.
I do think
you'd probably get it, wouldn't you? But
I think you would, yeah. I think you've just got because Doctor Strange says the multiverse is a complex machine, and he mentions several times about the multiverse and how there's multiple Peter Parkers out there. So I think the generals would buy it if they hadn't seen the other Spider-Man films.
Yeah, you'd probably get it. I mean, I don't know Was there much of a reaction? Because I saw this 3 times in the cinema. When you saw it, was there much of a reaction when these characters were popping back?
Not too much, no, because
Okay.
my screenings weren't that crowded because I had to see it. I had to
Right.
wait nearly 2 weeks to see it,
Yeah.
and yeah, not a lot of people were cheering. Maybe it
Okay.
was their second viewing and my first.
Maybe. Yeah. Because on my first viewing, there were like it was a very British thing where people were kind of going to clap but didn't really. But when Toby and Andrew came out, there was a big like it this big intake of breath and a few people going hey second
I mean,
viewing.
it's funny. American audiences, they tend to cheer more at films than us Brits do.
Yeah, us Brits are very very conservative with our cheering. Like I said, like
The
even
only,
this was just very much like okay, people are trying to keep it together,
the only
but
time I've seen people clap in the cinema is for Day of the Doctor.
oh yeah, yeah, same. But yeah, like second and third viewing, funnily enough, there was a bit of a reaction to Andrew Garfield, but nothing for
Mm.
Tobey Maguire. There was silence when Tobey Maguire came out, which was
I mean, did
quite
they all just
funny.
think? I mean, did they think what Ned was thinking? It's just some random
I
guy.
think so. Yeah. I mean, it's quite. It made me feel super old because on my second viewing, a dad was with his kid in front of me, and he leaned over and had to explain. Oh, Tobey Maguire. That's Tobey Maguire. He played Spider-Man years ago. I was just like, fucking hell, that makes me feel old. Because
Yeah,
this kid
because
wasn't even born when those films were.
when I was I did some schoolwork earlier in the year, and some kids were talking about it, and I was saying, how Tobey Maguire was my Spider-Man, and they were
Yeah.
like, "How?" And I was like, "Oh, he was Spider-Man like 20 years ago," and they were like, "What?"
Yeah. Oh
Just couldn't
yeah.
believe it. They're like, "Oh."
What do you think of the way the lizard looks in this one? Because it's kind of a slightly.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's not great. I can see why they always keep him in the dark because
Yeah.
it manages to look worse like 10 years after The Amazing Spider-Man.
The CGI in the Amazing Spider-Man films is so incredible. Like 10 years on from the first one,
Hmm.
is so like, both of them look absolutely
Yeah,
astounding.
yeah, like lines like that. I couldn't imagine the Amazing Spider-Man lizard saying that. Like, I could give you a makeover. No,
Yeah,
wait, that's you.
yeah, yeah. Also, we missed the. I think we missed the. I'm something of a scientist myself.
Yeah, honestly, I cringed when that happened. I
Yeah,
was like, "Come on."
It's like okay, I know what you're doing, but come on, it's
I
that's
felt
oh
like
god.
I felt like Lisa at the end of that catchphrase gag.
Yeah.
Saying, I'll be in my room. What kind of catchphrase is that?
Yeah.
And also, further proof how he's such an afterthought. Where's Connors? Oh wow, your lips aren't even moving.
Yeah.
Like, why? What's the point?
Yeah, so he wanted to stay in the. Yeah, it's very weird, isn't it?
You've got to cure them all anyway. Just bring them all in.
Yeah. So the first section of the film, I do have my issues with, as I've spoken about, but pretty much from this point on, where the villains are in the apartment, I think this film it goes up to another level. Um,
Yeah.
like it's just so, like I said, pretty much from this moment on, the
Hmm.
film just becomes something really brilliant, and I think it
Hmm.
just is so good. Like I say, the first hour I think is a bit shaky, but it's enjoyable, it's fun. But after this,
It is,
it
yeah.
is just so much so good.
Hmm. Yeah, and honestly, I think the jokes are quite funny. Like, he's gonna kill us all, and
Yeah.
uh, do you need salt water? What? Well, you're an
Oh, the
octopus.
octopus. That got a huge laugh every time I saw this. Like, that was, I think, probably the biggest laugh of the whole film was that.
hmm Yeah, I'll say this: when Doc Ock is cured, Alfred Molina's performance is great because he's like,
Ah, so good.
there's so much relief. There's so much relief in it. Like voices, they've stopped.
Yeah,
Like, thank you, dear boy. Thank you.
it's so good. And
Also,
yeah,
it's completely cheesy and cliche, but I just love how when he's evil, he's wearing dark shades. When he's good, his glasses have got lighter.
that's true. I've never noticed that. Yeah.
Pretty obvious, but I love it.
No, that's really, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I love the interactions Electro and Sandman have because they're just small time villains. They never asked for these powers. They just got them by accident.
Definitely. Yeah, it's funny because it's because you're comparing the CGI of Sandman to the CGI of Sandman from Spider-Man 3, which was huge for its time. Like the sound effects in that were pretty revolutionary, and it's kind of yeah it's kind of funny because I don't think it looks as good here. Um,
Mm,
yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I like the kind of subtle jab at the yeah, gotta be careful where you fall. People are
yeah, it's
always
great.
yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's just a missed opportunity. We didn't get any of this with Kurt Connors,
Yeah,
Osborn, and Octavius because they're all scientists trying to make the world better, but they ended up becoming monsters.
definitely. It's funny as well. I've just thought they're probably working with that chip with 2000s technology, right? Because
Oh yeah.
I know they never say where those films are set, but it's most likely the 2000s. So
hmm
yeah, it's always. But yeah, I love this whole bit with Doc Ock's redemption, and it's such a wonderful carry on to everything they did
hmm
with that in Spider-Man 2. It feels so natural, and again, I never thought that we'd see anything like that again, and just seeing it was
hmm
is pretty damn incredible, I've got to say.
And when he sees his Spider-Man, where he says, "It's good to see you again, dear boy," that's great.
Oh, oh god, yeah, might be my favorite moment of the film
hmm
with the
I
whole
think that
yeah.
was the only time that Alfred Molina and Tobey Maguire were on set together.
Yeah, I mean, again, that is the shame with COVID. It's a shame that they never actually share a frame together. um, but yeah, what can you do? Yeah, and the whole like I'd almost forgotten. Oh, so
hmm
good. It's just such a brilliant.
Yeah, he's much more relaxed. Otto is less on edge. He's smiling. He's
Mhm.
happy. There's just so much more relief in
Yeah.
him now. hmm I mean, you didn't have to give him the Iron Spider suit back. I prefer his other suit.
Yeah. Well, it's the integrated suit, isn't it? It's like it's a bit of.
hmm
I quite like it actually. It's kind of a mixture of the Iron Spider and the other one. It's quite.
hmm Oh yeah, his shades have already got lighter now.
Yeah, yeah,
I
there you
thought
go.
just at the end of the film where it happens, but no, he thought, I'm good now.
I've
I need
never
new glasses.
noticed that at all. That's such a good observation. I also like the it's just you, just me. Like it's like from that point on, that's the Goblin. Like
Yeah, definite.
Norman is bye bye.
hmm Norman's on sabbatical, honey.
Oh god, that moment. I mean, we'll get to it, but like when he grins, that's a
Mm.
neat trick. Like you just again in the cinema, I just felt this wave of like just this intake of air because it's like holy shit, he's going to kill everyone in this room. Like you just feel so threatened by him.
And it's terrifying how Peter keeps hitting him and laying into him, but he's just being like, "Atta boy, that's
Oh
great."
god, and when he's laughing, right? Like when he's just punching him and
Yeah.
he's just laughing. It's yeah. And I like that Sandman's like, yeah, leave it alone. We're gonna go home. Like it's. Plus, hang on, Sandman never died fighting Spider-Man either. Because so his whole thing is like, he just wants to go home. But yeah, okay, I guess it makes sense.
Are they planning to cure Sandman? Because that only seems to be a possibility when the other
Yeah.
Spider-Men come in.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because that was always the thing, people at the end of Spider-Man 3, obviously, because Flint's character arc gets a closure, but his ultimate thing where he just goes off, it is a bit like, okay, so he's just going to go off and cause more trouble. So,
We're
yeah.
going to assume he's going to rob more banks to
Yeah.
try and save his daughter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I never got why the lizard says, "and so it begins." Like, is he sensing the goblin as well?
I'm assuming it's
Like,
just because of, like, the reporters there, and it's going to... the reporters are there, and Jameson is there, and... Plus, it's mad that, like, people weren't... Like, Jameson is in this film, played by J.K. Simmons, and nobody batted an eyelid, because obviously we'd seen him a few years earlier in Far From Home. But even that was mad. Like, I never thought we'd ever see J.K. Simmons again in this role.
Oh yeah, it's good that they brought him back for this. Again, it feels like an updated version of the Daily Bugle.
Definitely.
It's no longer like a huge building with plenty of photographers and reporters working on it. It's now just 10 people making up their own news.
Yeah.
I think it's later on when Spider-Man announces, "I'm here, come get me, I'm at the Statue of Liberty." And then it's like, coming up next, why Spider-Man hates historical landmarks.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about Aunt May saying the iconic "great power comes great responsibility"?
I mean, I'm just glad that they finally did it in this Peter's universe. I'm glad that they finally gave him his
they
moment.
finally gave Aunt May something to do and not just, "I have the hots for
Oh
Aunt May."
yeah, not just, hey, I'm hot in this universe. Like, you're right, she
Yeah.
actually has something to do. Like I said, I'm just glad that they gave Peter that moment at all and that lesson to have. Ideally, I would have liked to have had it in the other films, but we've got it now, and it works, I think, very well. Although it does beg the question, what the hell did Uncle Ben do? if indeed he did have an uncle, I guess he did have an Uncle Ben, but yeah, it does beg the question, like, what? Wonder what role he had for this Peter.
Yeah. Yeah, because obviously the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man mentions Uncle Ben, but there's no response from the Tom Holland Spider-Man who goes, "I had an Uncle Ben too."
Yeah, we presume he does because he has the case in Far From Home, and then he mentions in Civil War about the bad things happening and everything like that. But it's yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly, her death I think is done really well.
Done really well, yeah.
Legitimately heartbreaking.
I think it would have been more effective, like you say, it would have been more effective had we built this character up beyond a one-note joke in the first two.
Yeah.
But it is really effective, isn't it? It's so good.
Mm.
This whole fight as well is excellent. The
Yeah,
one-on-one.
I loved that move of, Peter trying to web the goblin, but he just takes hold of the web and smacks him against the wall.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, that move where he uses the web to push him through the floor. That's taken directly from the PS4 game. There's a nice little reference there, because that's one of the moves you do in that game, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it echoes the final fight from the 2002 one, where it's just really
where
brutal.
Spider-Man's going all at it, and he can just take him down with the goblin can just take him down with a few punches.
Yeah.
You've really pissed me off.
Yeah.
He should have said that.
And he can still do the laugh as good as he ever could. It's so good.
I mean, it's like Mark Hamill as the Joker. They'll never lose that iconic laugh.
No, yeah. I like that he's struggling to climb the wall as well. Like he's clearly had the wind knocked out of him.
You climbed the roof to tell him that?
Yeah.
I told you there'd be consequences.
And he is properly beaten. Like he's grabbing him by his hair and stuff. It's grim. It's terrifying. This whole thing is really scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite funny. I saw a lot of people saying it's the best MCU villain, and it isn't even from the MCU.
I mean, I still think Thanos takes the crown, but he's definitely one of the stronger ones.
Yeah.
I think it's because Spider-Man, out of any Marvel superhero, he probably has the best and most memorable villains.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Certainly the most colourful.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you go with Marvel, I'd say Spider-Man has the best villains, and DC, it's definitely Batman.
Yeah, 100%. Batman has probably the best rogues gallery in all of fiction, I'd say.
Yep.
And I like that they kind of fake it, because I thought, May's gone, and then she gets up, and it's like, oh, maybe she's alright, and then and then it becomes quite clear that actually, no, she's not going to be alright. She's very gravely hurt.
Yeah, I do like this. She knows she's now on a ticking clock, and she will not until she lets Peter know about responsibility.
Yeah,
it's great.
And like I said, I'm just so glad they finally did this whole thing. It kind of sucks, because I know that like Tom Holland's future as the character is in question at the moment. And it is. It kind of sucks that we got this whole lesson in what could be his last film. It really sucks, because it's like, oh my god, just as you were getting there, just as you had finally like felt like a real proper version of Spider-Man. I mean, that sounds bad. That's unfair. But just as you were getting to what I really liked, you bow out, which it'll suck if we don't see him again, to be honest. But
yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd love to see him, in a fourth film, passing on the mantle to another Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Heck, they even reference Miles Morales here, because Electro says, I'd have Fletchered in black.
Yeah.
You think there's one out there?
Yeah, like that. Andrew Peter's just like, oh man, I'm sorry. And he doesn't. It's so brutal for him as well because he barely gets time to grieve here because people start shooting at him. Like she
Yeah.
dies and then he barely gets time to just process it because people start shooting. He has to get out of there. It's really brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And this is people were always saying, oh, the MCU Spider-Man films aren't meant to be serious. They're meant to be fun, light times at the cinema. And I just look at this and I'm like, yeah, well, this is a fun, light time at the cinema, but it also has great dramatic pathos to it and great dramatic moments and emotional scenes and performances from the actors. And I'm like, well, you can do both. You don't
Exactly. You can do both.
You don't have to pick a lane, guys. Like, and this is a prime example of that. And it's a shame, really.
Yeah, he really does sell it, Tom Holland.
Really
He's a
does.
terrific actor.
And Marissa Tomei does as well, and it's a shame that she didn't get... I think she even said in an interview, she was like, yeah, it's a shame. I'm glad I got some meaty stuff to do this time. And it is such a shame she never got anything like this before.
Yeah.
I mean, there is that great bit in Homecoming where he comes home and she's like, no, you don't do that. You call me, you don't leave me hanging like that, which is great, but...
Mm-hmm. Also, here's a fun fact. This is the only film from the Home trilogy not to end with a character going, "What the f-?"
Oh, it is? Yeah. I've never thought about that.
Homecoming, it's Aunt May.
Yeah.
Far From Home, it's Peter. And in this one, no one says it. I mean, given that post-credits scene with Venom, I'm surprised the bartender didn't go, "What the fuck?"
That would have been the best opportunity to do it, probably.
Mm-hmm. I mean, didn't you mention that in Venom Let There Be Carnage, isn't there a scene where Tom Hardy's Venom sees Peter Parker's identity being revealed on the news?
Yeah, so in the post-credit scene of Venom Let There Be Carnage, they get transported to the MCU, weirdly, which is because Venom never knew, I mean, that version of Venom never knew that Peter was Spider-Man, but whatever. And they see it on the news, and he licks the screen and goes, "This one looks tasty."
Tasty?
Yeah, which is where we pick up in the post-credit scene here, but it's just like, well, that makes no sense, because that Venom never died by Spider-Man's hand, and B, never knew that Peter was Spider-Man, so it makes no sense.
Exactly.
But that's, from what I understand, that was a very Sony thing, so... That is a really great shot of him with the billboard and the light and everything.
It perfectly conveys how small he's feeling right now, because, he's chucking it down with rain symbolises his grief, and that big screen about how the whole world is just against him still. He didn't make things better, he just arguably made it worse.
I mean, it's quite funny because it's like, they finally got it right in this one. They made Peter Parker miserable. But it's true, they gave him some weight and drama and consequences, which... And here we go, the scene that has been replayed 1,000 times and cheered at so many times. Yeah, this whole bit.
I mean, I'll give the film credit. For the first 2/3, it did make me forget that, oh yeah, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were rumoured to be in this. So
yeah. It
was still a surprise for me.
Yeah. But this whole bit, it's almost like... for people who went into it expecting them to be in it, it's almost like the film going, okay, we've made you wait long enough. Here you go. And
Andrew Garfield, he's 38 and he still looks like a teenager.
Incredible, yeah. And I'm just watching this now, even though I'm talking over it with you, and I'm not really watching it properly. I still am getting goosebumps with the anticipation of this, and it's still having an
Yeah,
impact on me.
It's brilliant.
It is, and as soon as I saw it in the cinema, I saw those big, massive eyes. I was like, "Here he is.
This is it.
This
yeah.
is it." And you know, granted, the scene itself, the CGI looks really dodgy on him, and it's really distracting to me how the music completely dials out of the film, because it's clearly meant to make you go hey, and it's designed for like the audience to cheer, but
Yeah.
I don't even care. It's just so so good. And he slips back in
were they
seamlessly.
I'm just gonna say, were they just wandering about until the portal opened in their universe?
I guess so, yeah.
And I love how he's so excited by the idea of multiverses, because you know, this Peter Parker probably loves science the most.
I think so, yeah.
And he's just so happy that it's all real.
Yeah. I will say it's a shame they didn't put him in the suit from the first one just to distinguish him from Tobey Maguire that bit more, but it makes sense for the timeline, because obviously it's after the Amazing Spider-Man 2, so it makes sense for the timeline, but part of me was a bit like, it's a shame we didn't have that original costume, as weird as it looks. Yeah.
And I like the line of prove your Peter Parker or Spider-Man. He's like, well, I don't carry ID around with me, kind of purpose.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's such a great contrast against the MCU, because pretty much every hero in that, all their identities are known.
Yeah, this is partly what I find refreshing about Miss Marvel, because they do the secret identity thing, and it's like, oh my god, this is what I've been missing from the MCU. Yeah.
Yeah, the MCU is like a secret identity. You don't need that.
Yeah. And just the little awkward mannerisms that his Peter had as well. Like he's all back completely. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
And I love, in the background you can hear a bit of the Amazing Spider-Man theme from James Horner. If you just listen to it subtly,
nice.
You can hear
Good.
the do 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 do, which is, and again when Toby comes through now, you can hear the Danny Elfman theme very subtly in the background, just those little notes.
And I like how he's not wearing his suit, implying that this is a retired Peter Parker, but not as in Spider-Man No More. He just grew too old for it, maybe, or
I interpret it as he's finally found a balance. All three of those films was about him wrestling with growing up and being an adult while also being a superhero, and by the end of that trilogy, he still hadn't found his balance. And we pick up in this one, and he's clearly a lot older, clearly a lot more world weary, but he's ultimately a much happier man than the one we left in 2007. He's a much more he's content with himself and the world. He's forgiven himself for anything that he might have done. He's just at peace with himself, and I thought it was so lovely to see. Toby's a lot more relaxed in his performance. It's just so lovely to see that version of Peter conquer his demons at last. Like he's done it. And that was what made it for me, really, because it would have been easy to de-age him, de-age them both and have it like it was, but this is the right choice, I think. Age them both and use it to tell a great story and catch us up on what these two have been up to since we last left them.
I mean, he should have come through the portal and said, Pizza time.
Yeah.
Or, great, it's just some random guy. I'm going to put some dirt in your eye.
Yeah.
Imagine if they found it. Imagine if he came into this universe as Bully Maguire.
That'd be so funny.
Oh, your Aunt May's dead. Gonna cry. Look at little Iron Man Jr. Gonna cry.
That was what was going around, wasn't it? Yeah. God, I love this bit as well, where it's just like, do you have a place where you can go and get away from it? Yeah, Chrysler Building, Empire State.
I mean,
It's
did we ever
brilliant.
see Garfield's Spider-Man on the Empire State?
I believe so. Yeah, in the second one, I think he goes up there to have a bit of an angsty moment when he learns that Gwen is leaving. I think he goes up
But
there
that
and
wasn't in the film, was it? That's a deleted scene,
oh
isn't
shit,
it?
yeah, you're right. Oh god, yeah,
It's
you're
in the
right.
trailer, but
That's
I think
it.
they cut it
Yeah,
out.
that's it because it's a really great deleted scene. It's not in the film. Yeah, that's true. Oh
Mm,
well. But like, just okay. So I said before, I expected them to be, if they were going to be in it, I expected little cameos, little fun bit for the fans, maybe at the end. I did not expect that this film would treat both of those characters with such respect
mm,
and love and dignity and uh yeah, I guess respect. Respect is the word. It treats
definitely,
both
yeah.
of their Spider-Men with such care, and it feels like the natural continuation for both of them. And that was something
Mm,
I never once expected, ever. I never thought we'd ever see that. I thought if we ever see them again, it'll be a little cameo, probably a DH thing. It'll be around the time they won't deal with any of it. But the fact that they mention Gwen and all of that,
yeah.
it, incredible, absolutely
Well, because I
incredible.
know after this came out, there was so many people pushing for an Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Oh yeah, they still are. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That hashtag is
Yeah.
still a thing. Yeah. And I've got to say, as big of a Raimi fanboy as I am, if gun to my head now, if you ask me, do you want to see Spider-Man 4 or The Amazing Spider-Man 3, I've got to say it would be Amazing Spider-Man 3 because
Me too, yeah.
seeing this
Hmm.
film, I think Toby's Peter has completed his arc. I
Yeah.
think this is a lovely epilogue and a coda to his arc that sort of shows that he's
Hmm.
grown into the person he was always meant to be, as I
Yeah.
spoke about earlier. I don't think there's much more you could do with that. Of course, if they announced it, I'd probably have a heart attack. You know what I mean? Like
Me too.
I'd be over the moon. But I think in terms of which one I think they could do the most with, I think Amazing Spider-Man 3. I think there's
Hmm.
still room to tell that story. Um, yeah,
I like how even though both Maguire and Garfield did lose an Uncle
yeah,
Ben, they don't both say it. It was
yeah,
you've got Uncle, love interest, and
yeah,
an aunt who they've lost.
yeah, exactly. And the whole thing where it's like how you put yourself in Andrew's or Toby's shoes, how impactful must have been for these characters to finally hear other people say, I lost this person in my life and they taught me
Mm,
with great power comes great responsibility. That look on Toby's face where he kind of realizes, holy shit, I'm not the only one anymore. Like
yeah,
I've had to
exactly.
deal with this by myself for 20 years for him really, and
Hmm.
now I don't have to anymore. I can share that burden. It's so good, and just the look on Toby's face, it's just brilliant.
And I like how even though it was quite controversial in Spider-Man 3, they don't retcon it here. They because he
No,
does say,
yeah,
I hunted down the guy who I thought did
yeah,
it."
exactly.
Yeah.
And again, I think in lesser writers' hands who perhaps weren't as weren't like real fans of those films and were just kind of writing this, putting them in, just as the fan service, we wouldn't have got all that.
Mm,
It's the fact that
yeah.
it's it respects those worlds and these characters and the
Mhm.
journeys of both of them. And especially with Andrew Garfield, given how he got shafted and his tenure got cut short, the fact that
Mhm.
they're still continuing that story here, so good.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the whole ASM 3, it's kind of like whenever they push for a Paul McGann TV series as the Eighth
Yeah,
Doctor. I don't think it's ever gonna happen.
no, I think I remember I said at the time the most likely thing is they'll come to some deal with Disney and they'll do like a little special on Disney Plus or something.
I mean, wasn't DC gonna try and do their own version of the multiverse with the Flash?
Well, well, apparently they still are, but Christ knows what's
I mean,
happening
is
to
that
that
still
film.
going ahead? Is it being scrapped
No,
or?
it's still going ahead, but I think it's in a position now where nobody quite knows how they're going to release it, given what's happened with Ezra Miller. Um, they're
Yeah,
yeah,
he's basically in a mess, isn't
they're
he?
kind of damned if they do, and they're damned if they don't. Cause
Yeah,
yeah,
because they're gonna because it's gonna be Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck, isn't it?
yeah. Apparently it was going to be this huge reset of the DCEU, and Michael Keaton was going to be the definitive, like he was going to be the Batman of the DCEU. But
Well, yeah, 'cause it's funny. I remember
yeah,
watching when the Batman came out. I was watching Oliver Harper's review of it, and this was back in late March, early April, and he said things like, "It's great seeing Robert Pattinson as Batman, but we've also got
yeah.
Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck back this year." And I'm like, "Oh, wait, that was supposed to happen this
It was
year?"
meant to be a Christmas release, yeah. In fact, I think it was meant to be a
Yikes.
few weeks from now, but then it all went to pop. So, and of course
Oh dear.
of course they cancelled Batgirl completely, and Michael Keaton was going to have a big role in that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
was Batgirl in the canon? They've just decided, no, we're not going to release it.
essentially, yeah. I think they still had to complete post production, but
What?
it was there. It was shot. And I think it was a massive insult to everyone who worked on it that they just scrapped it for a tax write off.
Yeah, because if it's a
Yeah.
project in development that hasn't started filming yet, I can get that. But the fact that you've completed
Yep.
and just been like, nah, let's not release it.
It's this new guy in charge of Warner Brothers at the moment. He's an absolute cretin. It's David
Ugh,
Zaslav. He's an absolute
oh
cretin.
dear.
I don't want to talk smack about people, but he is an absolute fool. He doesn't know what he's saying. Like, so many of the things he's coming out with are just blatantly wrong. Like, he keeps coming out with, we haven't had a Superman film in 13 years. Uh,
What?
well, I mean, Man of Steel was 10 years
It's,
ago. 9 years
yeah,
ago, rather. Superman Returns, if you're talking about that one, well, that was longer than 13 years ago. I don't know what you're on
yeah,
about, mate.
yep.
Um, but yeah, Batgirl, I just thought it was sucked for the cast and crew, really. They worked so hard on it,
Right.
and yeah, that film can never ever be released in any form because it's a tax write off. If they were to
Uh,
release any part of it, they would be committing fraud. So it can never
oh
ever
dear.
happen, which fucking sucks, and I think is just
Mm,
awful for everyone who put their heart and soul into that. But yeah, okay. The one bit I don't much care for this little bit is when Peter just said, "Yeah, I had a best friend. He died trying to kill me, and then he died in my arms or whatever. It was heartbreaking." That's not strictly true. I mean, yes, he tried to kill you, but he also redeemed himself and then fought side by side
yeah,
with
you
you.
could have said he sacrificed himself trying to
Yeah.
save me.
Yes.
That's probably more accurate.
That's the one bit where I'm like, okay, I feel like you kind of, because it's played as a bit of a joke, and I'm a bit like, well, yeah, that's not really what happened, but okay. So I don't much like that. That one bit there where he's like, yeah, I guess it's not in the cards for guys like us. Do you have someone? Oh god, it's so good. And
Mm,
to know that him and MJ worked it out after Spider-Man 3. To know that they did,
good. Yeah.
forgive each other in the end. Was just very comforting. I think it sounds funny to say, but it's just like at the end, because this was 2021 after a couple of years of the pandemic. It was just like, yeah, it's just nice to know that this guy made it in the end, and he had a bit of hope. And yeah,
Mm. And of course, yeah, they're referencing
yeah,
the organic web
the
computers.
organic
That's great.
webs.
Like, how the hell does that work?
Yeah. In fact, in the extended version, there's a bit later on where Andrew's like, so is it they expand on it, and he's like, that's so cool, man. I really want to see your holes. And it's just like this awkward beat where Toby looks down and he's like, what? But yeah.
Yeah, because both Maguire and Garfield Spider-Man, they had friends who turned into
Turned
supervillains
on
and
him,
ended up
yeah.
trying to kill him.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why this Ned doesn't become the Hobgoblin. Maybe they just didn't want it to be another one.
I was gonna say it'd be 3 in a row, wouldn't it? But
Mm.
cure that ass. Also, I still think that's the first time we've ever heard Toby's Peter use vulgar language.
Oh no.
Oh no.
My hero.
Remember, so
Surprised they didn't ask Nerdrotic to play J. Jonah Jameson, because he'd be playing himself.
I mean, he'd fit right in, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
He probably would be fine with everyone apart from Electro.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he'd probably
He took issue with the Aunt May "Great power comes great responsibility." According to him, that's the MCU making its ugly head into Spider-Man.
Of course, yeah.
Can I just ask you? You just gonna say that about every Marvel film that doesn't have women?
Yeah,
in it?
yeah.
Just fuck
It's
off.
so funny to me that like She-Hulk had its problems, but they made Nerdrotic the villain of that series. The villain of She-Hulk is a bunch of incels.
If you've seen the new Scream film, they made Nerdrotic the villain of that
Nerdrotic
as well.
is the villain in Scream 5, and it's incredible.
Yeah, honestly, Scream 5, I didn't laugh out loud, but I nearly fell out of my chair with the amount of jokes they were making. I was like, thank you.
The jokes about, like, the 8th one destroyed the franchise. Oh my god.
I just wanted to clap.
Excellent.
Also, the back comes back.
Oh, the back comes back. Excellent. And do you know what? Like, again, this is one of those mad things where it's like, yeah, before 2021, I couldn't, I never thought this would happen. And after 2021, I can now say I have seen Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man give Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man a back crack. And that's, my life is 10 times better for it.
I love the way Garfield is so happy to be around people who completely understand what he's going through, and that bit when they're about to take them on and goes, "I love you guys." It feels so cheesy on paper, but he makes it so genuine.
Well, it's improvised by Garfield.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that was an ad lib apparently. Yeah. But yeah, this whole bit where when he's like, "I always wanted brothers," of course he would, because his dad left. He never knew his dad properly, and there were so many unanswered questions about his dad. He probably had always wanted a brother to talk about that with. And all that, I had a weblock. Existential crisis stuff. I was just sat in the cinema with just the biggest grin on my face. Because this whole scene, I could watch a 3-hour film of just this. Of just them just shooting the shit and just talking. I want to fight an alien.
You fought an alien in space.
Yeah. And I like this because Garfield was always, the general perception was that he was the black sheep of the three. And so having him say that, like, "Oh, I'm lame compared to you guys," and then being like, "No, you're amazing. Just say it. Like, you are amazing." Having that, like, I think is such a brilliant, almost meta thing, really. Because it sucks. It really sucks, and I don't agree, but he was always perceived as the black sheep because he had his tenure cut short, and he kind of got buried a little bit. So the fact that they gave him that moment, I think, was so good. And this was really his redemption. Like, so many people came out of this going, yeah, the highlight of the film was Andrew Garfield.
Definitely, yeah.
And he's such a good actor. Like, he's one of my very favourite actors working. He's just so good. And one bit in particular later on we'll talk about, but it is a bit of a shame the masks are all CGI.
That's a shame. But I do like how when they start out, they're all kind of terrible at it because
Yeah.
the other two, they've always worked on their own. They've never worked in a team before.
Exactly.
And yeah, and I like how they don't have the Avengers in their universe. Oh, the Avengers, that's great. Is that a band?
Oh god, I laughed. The hardest I laughed in the cinema was that when he's like, "That's great. What is that?" God, that's such a good suit. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit is so good.
It is,
Such a nice suit. It's a shame that the recreation of the Raimi suit looks a little bit. It's the mask that's the web lines are just slightly uneven on it. It just doesn't look.
true.
It doesn't
The
look
eyes look a
quite
bit
right.
smaller as
They
well.
are. It isn't quite right, unfortunately. But you know, it's a minor quibble.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing of like David Tennant in The Day of the Doctor, where his hair's all wrong, and it's stuff like that. But hey, you know, we got to see a little taste of Spider-Man 4 there with the lizard. That's
Yeah, true, because he said lizard guys here.
yeah, that's Raimi Spider-Man fighting the lizard. Never thought we'd ever see that. Sandman should just never go on construction sites because it always ends in tears.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned this film looking a bit ugly, and yeah, you're right. This final fight, it's good, but it has a bit of a yellow smear on it,
quite
like someone
murky.
pissed off the lens.
Yeah. I like.
Someone took a bottle of piss and then smeared it over the lens.
Yeah. And you know, fair enough. The VFX guys, they worked really hard on this, and it's not to discredit them, but a lot of this CG is really patchy.
And of course, the three of them recreated that meme of the Spider-Mans pointing at each other.
And how good it, like, because Toby hadn't been in a film for a long time. He kind of disappeared, and this was his big comeback. And he's in the new Damien Chazelle film next month, so he's having a little bit of a career resurgence, which is good because I know we went through a bit of a bad time a few years ago, so it's nice to see that he's picked himself back up.
In fact, one thing I think that's great is that we're getting a lot of British actors playing American superheroes. Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, Henry Cavill, Christian Bale, Robert Pattinson.
Yeah. And here's your money shot, guys. Here's the three of them swinging together. Literally, countless people have dreamed about this for so many years. And here it is on the screen. All together on screen. Incredible. And I feel like it unites fans because there was always so like the different camps were always divided. It was like Raimi fans versus Webb fans versus Watts fans, and it's like this united everybody.
True, yeah.
If you're a Raimi fan, there's plenty in there for you. If Webb is your favorite, well, you know, there's so much
something
here
for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the Batman Arkham games. They take all the different versions of Batman that have been on the big screen, and they combine it all in one.
Exactly. And I know that, you know, some people who really love the MCU Spider-Man were concerned that this would overshadow that, but like I said before, it really doesn't. It's still his story, and it's still... I just couldn't believe it. As like a Raimi, the big Raimi fanboy I am, I could not believe that I was seeing new footage of that version of the character in the cinema. Like I was just sat there, I just kept having to pinch myself, and I'm like, this cannot be real. I'm seeing new footage of this character in the cinema. It's so mad that it happened.
I mean, what would make this world even better is if we got a Michael Keaton versus Christopher Reeve in a Batman v Superman movie.
That would be incredible. Well, there were rumours that in The Flash, because obviously it's been test screened and everything, there were strong rumours that Christopher Reeve and Adam West are in it as part of the multiverse stuff, and it's CGI resurrections of
Ooh,
them,
cool.
which is yeah, interesting.
I remember when this came out, there was a joke like, so we've had Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, but where's Nicholas Hammond?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Imagine if he popped
I
up.
think he did an interview actually. Somebody asked him about
Oh,
it, and he
cool.
was like, "Yeah, it would have been nice to have been in it, but you know."
Imagine his conversation with them. Oh, I just fought colourful bank
I just
robbers.
fought some gangsters.
Yeah.
Yes, Peter, I'm you, and you're me, and this is a gun. Oh, we missed the reused Sandman footage there from Spider-Man 3. Um,
Oh
it's
yeah, the
done.
stock.
Yeah, it's done as best as I guess they could have done it.
I mean, because I've seen the film so many times, I realise, oh yeah, that's from the bit where his
Yeah,
hand gets wet.
I think it's a slightly alternate take of it, but it's so they
Mhm.
use that to make it a bit less obvious. But it's quite funny because you can see his hair's wet.
True,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's less effective with the Rhys Ifans one because you can see him. So in the Amazing Spider-Man, when he kind of goes the Captain, you can
Mm,
see him about to say that line before it cuts away when they reuse
yeah,
the footage
true.
in this. But like you say, it's just because we've seen the film so many times. We recognise those points instantly.
hmm And I love this line, the power of the sun in the palm of my hand. It's not just a wink, wink,
Yeah.
wink. It genuinely fits where Doc Ock is now. He's using his powers for good rather
Arguably,
than his own selfish needs of
yeah.
delusion.
Arguably, this is him achieving his dream
Yeah.
at last.
hmm
At last, you know.
Because I think it's in Spider-Man 2 where Pete says sometimes we have to be steady
Yeah.
and do what's best for people.
Yeah.
Keep it in. That's fear. Oh wait, wrong film.
Yeah. The reuse footage here of Rhys Ifans doesn't. It's the weaker of the two, I think, but it's okay. It's just like you say, it's noticeable.
Get Christopher Eccles. Get that stock footage from Parting of the Ways and for my next
Oh
trick.
yeah, yeah. That's the only thing Christopher Eccleston ever says.
Mm.
And again, like I did not think we'd get reprisals of their themes, like hearing the Danny Elfman music when Sandman is cured, and we get a little bit of the do 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 do, which is nice. And I'm glad that they reprised that theme instead of the Amazing Spider-Man 2 theme.
Mm.
As much as I like it, I mean, you know, maybe it would have been nice to have the little do 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 do, like just a little subtle hint of it. But
hmm
in general, I think they did a really good job with the score.
Yeah, I love this. I'd have thought you'd been black.
Yeah. And I just like the, oh man, I'm sorry. It's just like,
Sorry for being the wrong skin colour.
goddamn heels. Yeah, this whole the bit with
Right, it's good to see you again, dear boy.
yeah, and the reprisal of the line, you know, trying to do better. What a great thing to do, like just the whole, you know, you've grown up. Probably my favorite moment in the film. Just yeah, trying to do better. How brilliant is that? Just yeah. I remember this picture got leaked of them two stood together, and a meme did the rounds because John Campier leaked it and then went on his show, like his YouTube show, and went, "It's fake, guys. Look, I'm sure this is fake." And the meme went around because he was like, "Take a look at Tobey Maguire's dick," and his point was that it looked CGI. And then there was egg on his face because it turned out to be real. Yes. Mm-hmm. So he leaked it thinking it was fake and ended up getting himself in a lot of trouble.
Good. Yeah, there's a bit here where he says, "Oh yeah, sorry, I was just gonna say this bit here is great." Where
oh my god,
this was all over the trailer. You think, "Oh god, he's not going to save MJ," but it's I love how it's the Garfield Spider-Man who saves her.
It's brilliant, and this bit was arguably the biggest point in the film for a lot of people. I think this created so much conversation on Twitter. Where it was
I love how she asks, "Are you okay?
Are you okay?" Yeah, I know so many people who cried at that. The relief on his face. You know, he's redeemed himself because he may have failed to save Gwen, but he's done it at last. It's so well done.
Are they hinting that Ned is going to join Doctor Strange?
Who knows? I mean, it is a little bit because obviously in Multiverse of Madness, they never reference any of this. They say, oh yeah, most recently there was an incident with Spider-Man, but they can't say specifics because everyone's forgotten him. So, it's true, a bit of it, yeah. I have to wonder if that line was only in there because Sam Raimi was on it and they were like, yeah, should we reference Spidey just to... We also get a little hint, like looks at characters that didn't come through in the little sky.
Yeah, like Rhino, Scorpion. I think you see a silhouette of Kraven.
I think you do, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who is another one of Sony's characters who's getting a film.
What, Kraven?
Yeah, I believe Aaron Taylor-Johnson is playing him.
Oh.
Which is a decent casting choice, you know, it's not a bad casting choice, but I just don't know what Sony are doing with those bloody films, but
yeah. Yeah, that is terrifying. The fact that it's kind of like the whole Batman and Joker thing. If Batman kills the Joker knows he's won because Batman's broken his own rule.
Yeah. Now, first viewing, did you think that in a minute when Tobey Maguire gets stabbed, did you think that they were going to kill him off?
I did think that, yeah, and then I just kind of walked away like, okay, why stab him?
It's kind of...
It's fine for him being there, you know, to say, no, you can't kill him, vengeance is not the answer, but to have him just get stabbed and then just be like, ow, and have it not really affect him, it's just a bit weird.
I have to wonder if there was a cut where he did die, but audiences were like, no, it's Toby, you can't do that to Toby.
Yeah.
I have to wonder. I don't mind. I've got to say, on first viewing, I was like, oh, I don't think they're going to kill it. I think it'd just be one step too far in terms of the tragedy of this film. So I didn't think they would. But it is weird, like, because he runs over to him and he's like, yeah, I've been stabbed before. Which is true, he has, but, yeah, I don't know. I wonder how effective...
When was he stabbed before?
Harry stabs him in the mansion fight. But when he's got the symbiote and he pulls the knife out and there's a bit of blood on it, and then he just carries on. So, It's a bit of a shame that there's no moment between Peter and Norman. Toby's Peter and Norman.
Yeah, true. We could have had that. Yeah,
Bit of a shame.
because he got one with Octavius, and Garfield's Spider-Man got one with Electro. So
Yeah.
it's a shame we didn't get that. You killed her. That's great.
It's so good. But the thing is, I must say, like, although I'm saying, oh, it'd be a shame about this, and well, it'd be cool if we had that, and this wasn't quite right. I'm just grateful that we got these three in the same film, and it was handled with so much care. Like, of course, I'm gonna have nitpicks. That's because I'm a nitpicky fan, but ultimately, they are nitpicks. I'm just happy that they handled the characters so well and did it so well.
Yeah, definitely. Should have called it The Day of the Spider-Man.
Yeah. Because of course this film has gone through the period where everyone loved it where it came out, and then over the course of the last year, people have soured on it, and they're like, oh, it's overrated. It was just all the hype. But you know, I still really like it.
I think a year later it still holds up.
Same.
Yeah.
I agree. Because I know he says I've been stabbed before, but at the same time, being stabbed once doesn't grant you immunity from being stabbed.
Yeah, here we go. Craven, Scorpion.
I think you can see Calypso as well, which is like a kind of female counterpart to Craven. But funnily enough, it looks like the comic book Rhino, because it looks like a rhino. It doesn't look like the Paul Giamatti version.
You'll fight me now, huh?
I am the rhino.
I mean, because there was no ASM 3, for years I just thought, oh, okay, so this Garfield Spider-Man probably died
fighting the rhino. Yeah.
Okay.
He died fighting a bold Paul Giamatti. A Russian man in a rhinoceros machine.
I mean, I'd love to have seen Tony Stark fight that version of the Rhino.
Yeah, it would have been cool.
I know, didn't Andrew Garfield say, I don't think my Spider-Man would have sided with Tony Stark?
He did, yeah. In an interview before Spider-Man joined the MCU, people were asking about it. He was like, no, my Peter wouldn't do that. My Peter wouldn't do that.
And I can see why, given how that Peter's main enemy was basically Oscorp, and that runs a big business.
Exactly. And I love the whole thing where it's like, if we never get to see Toby and Andrew again, I think this is a brilliant farewell to them both.
Send off for them, yeah.
I think it's the best send off we could ask for.
With Garfield, we got closure, and with Maguire, we got an epilogue.
Absolutely. And I said, I do think there's more to be done with Andrew Garfield's character. I think there's definitely more. You can do more if you would want to springboard off of this. But if you don't, well, I'm happy with that little bit of closure. And I think he said recently, I'm a man in my late 30s. I should not be wearing tights. Like he said that he's kind of done with it, but. And again, and I like the idea that, because I really hope that the spell where everyone forgets, I really hope that doesn't affect the other universes, because I like the idea that Toby and Andrew both take something away from this experience and learn from it. Andrew especially.
Yeah.
So I really hope that they don't forget as well.
And
love that they follow through on the forget thing as well. They don't reverse it. They don't have a little
Yeah,
thing
they
at the
don't
end.
just.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is used to fix everything, and it feels like something that has proper consequences.
Yeah. Because on first viewing, I was like, okay, this is cool, but I bet you they're going to have a little moment where she gives a hint of remembering or something happens, but they don't. They don't.
No, they don't. He's completely on his own.
Do you know, I thought it would have been nice to have a little cameo from Mr. Ditkovich at the end as his landlord, but they didn't do that. I think it would have been great to just hear.
Oh yeah, because he moves into an apartment. Yeah.
I think it would have been great to have a little rent is due Friday.
And when he comes out the cafe, having decided not to say everything to MJ, have him just say, having problem with woman.
Yeah.
All you see is, you are a good woman. I am a good man.
Have a thing. He does anything, and Mr. Ditkovich just peers around the corner and goes, "Rent." I love the score here as well. Like it's because like Tom Holland's.
Did Michael Giacchino did all three?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And he because his Spider-Man theme is very light and fluffy, like it's dun 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 dun, dun, and that works really well for the first two. But I like the more dramatic spin that it puts on it in this one, and it works just as well, I think. Yeah, it's really, really good. And of course, he directed the Marvel Studios Werewolf by Night special that aired on Disney Plus. He directed and wrote the music for it. So real jack of all trades guy. And yeah, just Tom's face as he goes to swing off it's so good.
I mean, yeah, it's what I call the Caves of Androzani effect, where you put the main character through hell.
Essentially.
He's literally put through hell in this.
It kind of his face, it kind of that whole thing where he swings off. It reminds me a lot of Tobey Maguire at the end of Spider-Man 2. It definitely has shades of that, I think.
And I just realised this is the only Holland film that kind of ends in a funeral because he goes to Aunt May's grave.
Yeah, that's true.
And we joked about with the Raimi and Webb films that they always tend to end in a funeral. Yep.
And I really, really hope it's just a shame because you've got such a great setup here for future films, and it's just a shame if we don't get any more of that. And it's not looking like we are, but it'd be a big, big shame.
And yeah, you're right. This is a Christmas film because it's now Christmas.
It's now Christmas. Yeah. Gets in the festive mode for sure.
Yeah, I genuinely thought he was gonna at least get MJ back.
Same.
But no, they stick on it and have him now be alone.
Yeah, and I love that they're brave enough to do that, to be honest. I did not expect it. I really didn't expect it. And I don't think, if this was, say, Far From Home, I don't think they would have stuck to it. I think they probably would have just turned it into a joke somehow. Because that was partly what I was worried about with this. I thought they'd turn everything into a joke, but they don't.
And one thing I love is the way when Ned came into the cafe, like, he just walked by Peter as if he was nothing. Yeah. And that's so breaking.
And I wonder if we'll even see these two again, because of course they're going off to college. Peter can't go. He's staying in a little lonely apartment in Manhattan, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we mentioned, oh, is there going to be a shot where it looks like she remembers? There was something like that in Journey's End, where TARDIS materializes and Donna turns around as if she recognizes the sound, but they decided to cut it because they realized, oh, that doesn't make sense because she's not going to know what the TARDIS is.
Yeah. And there is a little bit of a hint, I guess, where she kind of looks at him, but it's not. I thought they were going to turn their back on it and reverse it completely, but they don't, and it's.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that what stops him giving her the note is him seeing the plaster on her forehead. It's like that's the wake up call for him.
Oh yeah, true. That's like if I tell her and she gets involved again, it could mean the end of it, because he did nearly lose her in that fight.
Exactly. It's like he sees that and he goes, "She's happy. I'm gonna let it go." And who knows? Maybe he will go into that coffee shop and be friends with her, but that heartbroken look on his face where she asks him, "Is there anything else?" and he's just like, "I'm gonna let it go." No. He's again echoes of Spider-Man 2, where our protagonist chooses to reject his happy ending. So Spider-Man, it's so good.
Yep.
And in the end, he's not that sad. He's happy that they're happy, and he's probably really upset about it and broken up, but at least they're okay, kind of thing. And
yeah,
it's brilliant.
Because he's a Peter Parker who always puts his friends first.
Yeah, exactly. It's a shame that you can kind of tell this was a reshoot in a minute, because there's quite an obvious shot where it looks like a green screen behind him in the graveyard, but yeah.
I mean, this bit confuses me a bit because, everyone's forgotten he's Spider-Man, but have they forgotten that May was his aunt?
Yeah.
It's like Happy's looking at him like, who are you?
This is what's a bit confusing, because it's like, how do you know him through Spider-Man? Well, okay, so Peter was at the funeral. So Peter was at Tony Stark's funeral. Does that mean everyone has forgotten fighting side by side with Spider-Man? Does that mean Carol Danvers has forgotten giving the Infinity Gauntlet to Spider-Man because he had his mask off? It's one of those things. Yeah. If you think about it too hard, it'll probably fall apart, and it's one of the things that probably depends on how it's handled in future films. But you know. He says rent is due on the 1st of the month. Don't be late. I'm sort of a bit like, he could have put Dickovich.
It should have been Mr. Dickovich.
It probably would have taken away from it, because obviously it's quite an emotional moment, and it probably would have been a bit of a distraction. So, but part of me just feels like, come on.
Yeah, I like how he's in a small apartment.
Yeah.
Just like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
Exactly. They reverted him to a Peter Parker state.
Mm.
And it's yeah.
And he's got the police scanner as
He's got the
well.
police scanner. Yep. He's sewing his
Classic red,
suit.
white, and
Yep.
blue.
He's
Yep.
sewing his suit up. Um,
Hmm.
and the suit looks great. I mean, I will say, like, a lot of people were very. They were calling this like the best live action Spider-Man suit. I will just say we haven't actually seen it in live action. We've only seen CGI renders of it. So I'm holding off on that judgment yet. You know, when we see it, him in the costume, you know, I'll judge it then. But it does look very nice. It's a very nice looking suit.
Mm. A very appropriate song choice, the magic number.
Yeah, it's great.
3.
It's great.
They should have played. I mean, to be honest, given his state at the end of the film, they should have played "One is the loneliest number."
Yeah, that'd be funny. I really like this end title sequence as well. I like that we're getting the all of the symbols of the different Spider-Man in there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like what I've said before. It's a shame, like, opening credits aren't a thing anymore, but end credits now seem to be the
Yeah.
thing, where they put their just artwork in.
Definitely.
I like how they're drawn for their comic book counterparts. It looks great.
Yeah, definitely. It's a nice kind of continuation of the end titles from the other two as well. It's kind of that same
I mean,
vibe.
once again, is this a reference to Spider-Man 2?
Yeah. But yeah, I'm just glad we got this film, and I'm glad it was as good as it was. Um,
Definitely, yeah. Mm.
And it's nice that we can now watch. Oh, and I love the half-faced images of both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I love that we can now watch the Raimi trilogy and the Amazing Spider-Man duology, and sort of go, yeah, there's a nice little epilogue as well, if we want that.
Exactly,
It's
yeah.
just nice that we have it, and everybody wins. Everybody wins.
Yeah. Everybody
wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny, just looking at all the cast members credited there, they didn't credit Rhys Ifans or Thomas Hayden Church.
No, they didn't. No.
That odd.
Well, I remember it was hard to find information about that, what their involvement was for ages, because obviously they do the voice, but it was really, really difficult to
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Is it a mid-credit scene? Yeah, it is for Venom.
Oh yeah.
Oh god.
So, because it makes no sense why he's here, but it's kind of
I know
yeah.
why, because it's a film with the Sony
It's
logo on it.
Sony, isn't it? Yeah, it's just like, oh god.
Yeah, honestly, missed opportunity for when he fades and the bartender goes, "What the?"
Yeah. And he leaves a bit of the symbiote behind, which implies that.
He does. Yeah.
And I really hope they don't go that way for the first, at least not for the first one post this. Like, my ideal first film, like next film for Spider-Man, is to have a very small scale story about him trying to lay low, maybe dealing with like the Kingpin, because the Kingpin is back, like they brought him into Hawkeye, so he's around. Have him in it, have Daredevil maybe pop up.
I mean, I'd love it for him to go through an arc where he deserves to put himself first rather than others. Kind of like what Toy Story 4 did with Woody. He deserves to have his own happiness, and he can do that by handing over the mantle to Miles Morales, I
Definitely,
think.
yeah, would be really good. I just really hope they don't go for the symbiote one straight away. I just think that'd be a big.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a big mistake. I think you need to build up to that. Have hints of it, maybe. It's just, yeah. But also,
Yeah, because he has left it behind.
He's left it behind,
yeah.
and he gets a little bit of a gooey.
I just realised what that line from Venom. Hey, you thought Lethal Protector was a shit name.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, they do credit Rhys Ifans and Thomas Hayden Church, I think, as the voices. But yeah. Also, I just realised Karen isn't in this. The voice from the suit in the Suit Lady.
Oh yeah, true.
That's weird. I've only just clocked onto that.
Heck, I don't think Tony Stark, aside from that bit there where he says, "So let's get this right, that there's a man in an iron suit who flies around."
Yeah.
And there's a big green angry guy. I don't think there's any reference to Tony Stark in this at all.
I mean, there's the Stark tech.
Oh, the original True Believer.
Oh,
Avi
yeah.
Arad, who's... Ooh.
Oh, I bet he campaigned to put himself in there, didn't he? Oh, God.
I wonder.
So that annoyed me, I remember. So we get a credit for Avi Arad, but we don't get a thank you credit for Mark Webb or Sam Raimi.
Or Sam Raimi. Like, what?
That they should have been credited there.
That's weird.
They should have had a special thank you credit. Given that, like, a lot of the film relies on their versions of the characters. It's weird.
Definitely, yeah.
It's weird. But it's Avi Arad, isn't it? He's always getting his grubby little hands on things. And
yeah. There was no reference to Tony Stark in this, and I think that's why it does feel like the best of the three, because there's not that baggage anymore.
Yeah, definitely. I said at the time, and I stand by it, it feels like a Spider-Man film. It feels like a story about Peter Parker. Yeah, I love it. And it's still, it's held up. Like I said, it's held up. It's been, it stood the test of time over the last year.
It has, yeah. It's the best of the home trilogy. It's the best of Phase 4, in my opinion. And yeah, it's just definitely, it's a film that holds up nearly a year later as of recording this.
Definitely. And I don't buy I know, there is the criticism of, you get swept up in the hype of it, and to an extent, yeah, but it's, like I said, it still works, and it's still, when Andrew and Toby come in, it still has that impact for me. It still has
definitely,
that kind of moment, Yeah, really, really good. And I just, it's just now, like, what happens next? Where do they go from here? Will we get continuations for Toby and Andrew? The aftermath of this was very interesting.
Are they going to be in Avengers 5?
Well, a rumour is that Avengers 5 is going to bring in every major Marvel character from every major Marvel film pre-MCU. So we're talking Ewan Griffith as Mr. Fantastic, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, all that shit.
Well, Hugh Jackman is coming back for Deadpool 3, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, very much so.
So that's definitely on the cards.
That's definitely happening.
Ian McKellen as Magneto, that'd be cool.
Oh, it'd be hilarious if we get Chris Evans as Human Torch. That would be funny.
Yeah, they'd all look at him like, Cap?
Yeah. Well, Multiverse of Madness did open that up because we got Charles Xavier in it, even though it was a little bit dodgy, but it's he's in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that might be happening for Avengers 5. We might be getting all the old faces back.
I mean, I have said the villain for Avengers 5, you could have Galactus, maybe.
Yeah, Galactus would be massive.
Is he like a planet-eating...
Essentially, yeah, he's a giant, big celestial who eats planets, and he's purple.
Yeah, because I know in the Lego Marvel Superheroes game, he's like the final boss villain, Galactus.
Because in the Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer, they made him into just a storm cloud that eats planets, and everyone was like, well, that's just boring it up. That's just taking all the fun out of it. Because part of the fun of it is he can speak. Like, he's a giant celestial, but he looks like a man. But
that's the great thing about the MCU. They they're not afraid to have characters look like their comic book
Yeah,
counterparts. Whereas I noticed with like early 2000s films like X-Men,
definitely,
and definitely Nolan's Batman trilogy, they tried to edge away from the comics a bit because
definitely.
I reckon they thought if we make it too light, too silly, too funny, people aren't going to take us seriously.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which I totally get. I mean, now we can buy that we've got heroes like a talking raccoon and a tree that can only say 3 words.
Yeah. This credit always baffles me. Downton Abbey DVD, courtesy of Universal Studios licensing. When was there a Downton Abbey DVD in this film?
I don't.
It feels like, because my theory was, because in Iron Man 3, Happy loves Downton Abbey, doesn't he? So part of me was like, oh, maybe there was a deleted scene where there was a joke about that. But yeah.
I mean, it's actually Jon Favreau's favourite show, Downton Abbey.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that. Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's his favourite TV show.
Oh, wow.
Well, it's funny. I mean, it's funny how Jon Favreau directed Elf, and for some reason they've now used Elf. Asda's now used Elf for their Christmas adverts this year.
Yeah, that advert is really well done in terms of just the effects of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's almost seamless, the way it's done. It's very good.
Is there a Spider-Man will return? I don't think so.
I think so. Is there? I think there is. Because I know we get the trailer for Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, we do, yeah. That's the post-credits scene, yeah.
Because I know it...
The first time they've done that since Captain America First Avenger, because all it was a trailer for the Avengers.
Yeah. And I know it's different in the extended cut, because obviously there's no need to put a trailer for a film that's already come out. In the extended cut, it's an interview with Betty Brant, I think, who...
okay.
Like, they show footage from Homecoming and Far From Home, but Peter... And, like, photos from, like, their trip to Italy and stuff. But Peter is always blurred out. Like, somebody's always in front of Peter and covering him up. So it's like he's not there, so he's literally almost been erased from the photos and the footage. So it's quite... quite cool. Like, I watched it on YouTube, the clip. And it's quite haunting, actually, to see these students talking about these great times they had. And all the photos are just, like, hiding Peter. So that's quite cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, quite cool trailers.
Yeah, the film for me was very middling, but this is a cool trailer.
I thought the script was the worst part of the film. I think if it had a better script, it would have been fantastic, because I love the visuals. I think Sam Raimi really got to stretch his muscles with it, stretch his legs rather. But the script I thought was very patchy, especially in the middle. But you know, at least it was visually sumptuous. And I mean, you can see that from the trailer. Like, it looks great. It looks like it's a great looking film.
Definitely, yeah.
It's quite a long trailer as well, isn't it? I forgot about this. It's not just a little teaser. Like, because at the end of the Captain America, it's quite just a short little teaser for the Avengers, isn't it? But
yeah.
But this is a proper theatrical trailer.
Oh yeah, it's Doctor Strange will return, not Spider-Man will return.
Yeah. And there we go. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the commentary. Our big return to commentaries with this one. We do have one more though for you to enjoy. So what are we going to be doing next time, Isaac?
All I'm going to say is, who are you calling small?
If you need another clue, look forward to that on the 23rd of November. That should give it all away. But yes, I really hope you enjoyed the commentary. If you want more from us, you can find our commentaries to the previous Spider-Man films on this channel. Just look in the audio commentaries playlist and listen away. Hours of content for you there. And Isaac, where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter if it's not been destroyed.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
You can find me on Instagram as well. Just type in Whittaker-Dakin. But yeah, it's been a fun ride.
Excellent. Well, everyone, hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.